So just a summary from my side, trying to sort of uh, showcase where should we really, how should we think about in summary, and that's probably to just to facilitate the discussion from here on the Q&A that we have into what moves the needle the most and why competitive distance will keep on increasing. That's what we feel. So if you look at here on the LPG terminal side, most all of these things have been covered. What I want to lay stress on is exemplary execution and walking the talk. So they have been able to, as Dhanil mentioned, from 0.7 million tons to 3 million tons in five years. They have also been able to continuously focus on increasing the efficiency. So how do they do that? We have talked about, how they increase the throughput even with static capacity. Capacity has not been increased, but there have been multiplier effect on the throughput as seen in Mumbai. They have also been, you know, this also, this continuous focus on increasing efficiencies gives them the ability to have the competing price buffers with them. The other part is on the lowest industry capex cost by an order of sometimes 2x. Uh, uh, and that gives them the ability, superior ability to fund future expansions much better and faster than competition. The other thing is obviously the strategic vision, how they, handle end to end, how they have a very strategic partner in Itachu and who has taken stake and in the business at a very high valuation. They might or might not get the same valuations in other businesses that Itachu has an option to take stake into. But it does showcase a very valuable equity sale and possibly future model to bank upon where they can sell equity and again get funds for expansion. But the most important thing probably to focus on is that through all this that they have been doing, one aspect, I don't know whether it got mentioned, but in many of the con calls, it has been mentioned that all these terminaling projects have been led by customer requirements. So it is HPCL which took them there and said that, can you help me? Even in places like Kandla, so they might not have anchor customers, but they do have some sort of a tacit agreement. You come and put up the capacities and we'll take care of throughput. You will get your fair share. So that that is a tremendous advantage to have with customers who are close to you, are close to those customers. And because of that, and their nudging, they are also the thing that has come about is a pan-India coastal network is in the making. And once the pipeline grid all over India is over, that would give tremendous grid connect flexibility to the Aegis business. And that would mean that they can service any requirement from practically anywhere, which I think is something that no other competition is within near distance or touching distance to go that route. They will take many more miles to go that route. Of course, this business presents huge scalability, and therefore, once this kind of a network is in place, and if LPG, the demand consumption and the import projections play out beyond the 5 years that we see, definitely it makes for increasing distance with peers by the year. They can only become stronger, and yes, there would be new entrants who are coming in, but what is their focus? Even the PSU businesses, what is their focus? The focus is probably diffused, and we'll see in the next 3 to 4 years how Mundra shapes up, and how Adani's ambitions are on the other expansions like Damra, etc. But they're into so many other things, not just LPG. So yes, that is something to track. That is something to look at closely and consider. But if we were to say, if there is a level playing field, where are the odds stacked of a business that is capable of harnessing the tailwinds and running away faster? It is Aegis. which is the business which has won the customer trust ecosystem. It is close to all the players. It has helped some of them expand majorly, like HPCL. They have shown all the vision and the execution skills to be able to run very fast and take advantage of the tailwinds that are possibly there. One counterpoint to all of this is, of course, that the major customers can scale up their terminals, and that is a risk, but probably a high impact, but a low probability risk in our mind. The one aspect that we have to further work on is probably we don't have a good answer on why their capex costs are the lowest in the industry. So historical we can understand, but like new projects announced also. I think a direct question has not been asked or in that level of granularity, and therefore we need to have some sort of fix on why their capex costs are that low. That is something we need to take forward. Ankit, the other side, please. Previous slide. Yeah. So on the liquid terminal, there's uh, not much to say except for saying that very strong entry barriers. There's nobody who can come within touching distance anymore. There's nobody who can come suddenly and dislodge them from their perch. They have available space and land to expand further. And this is a very good thing to have in terms of cash cow solid business segment. It lends solidity. It lends solidity in. We have just seen in the last 2 quarters where terminaling business was at a standstill. This is something that actually provided the cushion and kept them profitable. Uh, the only thing that goes against the management here is the counterpoint on inability to utilize P-Power. That has been something that has been there for many years. And is it only the absence of rail connectivity? Probably it's more the absence of traffic, and therefore rail connectivity, if and when it happens, post the rail connectivity for LPG terminals, we don't know whether it can be extended to liquid terminals. If it does, uh, there might still be more issues than just the connectivity which is happening their growth ahead of the liquid terminals. I think that's it from me. Back to Dhanil.
Yeah. So, I think in AG's terminaling is, of course, a very large portion of the business. And but interestingly, they've been seeding a business which I think, uh, can be very interesting. And currently, the scale of this business is relatively small, but there are certain characteristics of this business, which again is very interesting. And AGS itself, management has been saying that in next 3, 4, 5 years, there is going to be a significant focus of the management on this segment. So this business is a LPG distribution business. Basically, it involves the last mile delivery of LPG to various kind of end consumers. That involves auto LPG, of course, the LPG dispensation for automobile. So they have total 115 stations. Of course, this number has remained static for over last 4, 5 years now. It was, I think, 100 if I remember correctly 4, 5 years ago, and it's 115. But this has been a phenomenon across the industry. So overall, auto LPG usage in the country itself has remained stagnant. And we'll go into the reasons for that. Commercial, of course, mainly consumed in hotel and restaurants and small scale industries. They have a network of 164 distributors in 55 cities and 9 states. Industrial, basically, it's delivered into small industries to tankers, and it is mainly auto, ceramic, glass, steel are the consumers of LPG. And recently, Aegis has also entered into domestic segment with Chota Sikandar brand, where they have come out with cylinder in configuration of 2, 4, and 12 kgs. Interestingly, the graph that I've shown besides this description is very interesting. What happened from FY10 to FY15 and what panned out after FY15 is essentially the impact of DBT, so direct benefit transfer. What used to happen is that in all these segments that I mentioned, auto, commercial, and industrial, the subsidized gas used to leak out from the system, which was meant for cooking, and then was to go into all these areas, and people used to enjoy subsidy even for this thing. But the moment this DBT came in, suddenly that leakage stopped, and that has led to significant growth in business. So if you look at the volumes, from FY10 to FY15, it was you know in the range of around 45,000, and in 5 years it has moved from 45,000 to 165,000. So that is a 31% CAGR over last 5 years. And a large part of this, all the segment grew, but as I mentioned, auto LPG grew little less. Commercial grew at around 18 to 20%, but a significant jump in usage of LPG in the industrial side. So because of the cleaner fuel focus, and this LPG taxation rate also being utilized, and oil prices also being high, and LPG became competitive vis-a-vis other fuels. So a lot of this factor led to use of increased LPG in the industrial segment. And again, we'll look at it in the next slide, that what are the advantages and how does management look at this business. Okay, next slide, please.
Yeah.
Okay. So, two things why it is a very interesting business and why Aegis is well positioned to win the game. So first and very important thing in this business is to have a complete control on the entire value chain. So Aegis has a JV with Itochu. Itochu is the largest LPG or largest or second largest LPG trader in the world. So they have a control on raw material. So you have to remember that unlike terminaling, here the prices of raw material at which you bring the supply is very important. So their control on the source is an important thing. They have a control on the storage and terminaling part. They have tie-ups on the pipeline. So till the almost the last mile delivery, they have the entire value chain which is under their control. Second thing is, if you look at the competition, it's only with the PSUs. I mean, I've yet to find a competitor which is present across all segments. I mean, Supergas is there. Supergas is only doing the commercial part largely. They are not very large in auto LPG. Confidence is doing auto LPG, but they're not very large in industrial and commercial. So this is a space where only, I mean, if he has to actually do a competition, it's like with the PSUs and all the other players that I mentioned, they don't have the entire value chain aligned. So it is a fairly good space to be in, where the competition is not not very agile, very dynamic. And we have to remember that for PSUs, petrol and diesel is a much larger game. LPG, their focus is on the domestic sector to give the gas for cooking, fulfill the goals of the whatever is the national scheme for reaching the last mile to the the most rural areas. That is their focus. Their focus is not to maximize the profit by selling it to industrial commercial segments. So I think inherently they have an advantage. And the last one is that it's a franchise based model, so there is hardly any capex involved. And if you look at the margins across all the businesses that Aegis has, liquid terminal has around 180 to 300 rupees per ton, LPG terminaling from 800 to 1000 rupees, and auto gas from 6000 rupees to 10,000 rupees per ton, commercial, it's all listed. But average distribution margin is around 4,000 rupees per ton, which is 4 times your terminaling business margin. So it's a very, very profitable segment. And it's a small scale. They have advantage. The competition is weak. So all the building blocks for high growth and high profitability is there.
So summarize our view on the company. We feel that the building blocks for good growth for next 3-4 years are in place for this company, and that will be primarily led by the terminaling business, as demonstrated earlier. So currently that business is doing run rate of around 3 million tons, and in next 4 years with all the capacity coming in and the indications given by the management, we think that they can reach around 7 million tons by FY25. um, we also feel that terminal business is a growing annuity business, so which is highly valuable in general. Also, one very interesting thing is that the incremental return on additional capital that the company deploys for the expansion at the same location is highly ROC accretive, and uh, ages in this business has created significant competitive advantage, which will hold the company in good state, even if there are more competitors coming in. um, as I said, there is some visibility for growth for next 3 4 years, but given the growth mindset of the management and the kind of execution track record that they've demonstrated in the past, there is a good probability that the company find opportunities to grow beyond the medium term too. The only risk, the risk part that remains in this story is OMC disengaging with Aegis in any meaningful manner to set up their own terminal, or any large accident at the terminal, which results into large casualty. That can derail the story, and we may have to relook at our thesis at that point of time. So thank you all for your time and attention. That's it from our side.
With that, it's a wrap on the Aegis business discussion. Thank you for your patient hearing. Hope you enjoyed a peek into how Team VP process of working hard at analyzing a business in depth. This is part of VP's investor education initiative. The endeavor is also to attract like-minded investors to the VP platform. In 2020, we are focusing on adding more and more domain experts to the VP expert network. As you might have noticed, our resident oil and gas expert Dhanil Desai, how he anchored much of the discussion and Q&A with such consummate ease. He helped us get to the bone of the matter by bringing us all on the same page very quickly. That kind of industry insights are invaluable for any in depth look at a business or industry. We invite each one of you with 10 to 15 years plus domain experience to put up your hand and be counted in into the VP Expert Network and help us conduct more such extensive in depth discussions in your domain of expertise. Do drop a line to me at donald@valuepicker.com, and we'll try and see how to facilitate your inputs into such discussions that we'll be conducting from time to time. Thank you.